All right, and we're live. Welcome back to another Wargamer Girl Paint and Chat live stream. I hope you're having a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday, day before Thanksgiving for the American folks there. But if you're not stuck having to do any sort of cooking prep, come hang out with us and paint some miniatures. With me, of course, I've got Disembodied Voice below me helping run the show.
Well, hello.
We got the Painter Flo working on some, presumably, what are you working on?
White Scars.
What, more white scars?
More white scars.
More white scars.
Happy Turkey Eve.
Right now they're gray scars.
Yeah, they're monochrome scars. And then we've got special guest tonight joining us, Kris Belleau with Way of the Brush. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I figured if I was going to have a guest the day before Thanksgiving, it had to be from someone who didn't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Yeah. A real turkey? Is that what you're going to say? I thought that's where you were going to go with that.
Well, I can't call you a turkey because you're very clearly a gobber.
Something that
gobbo.
Is he a gobber or is he a squig? He looks like a squig to me.
It's a squig.
True squig with your cute little gifts of Nurgle. You are quite adorable tonight, sir. And I don't know what the temperature is up in Canada. I assume it's worth having that Snuggie, though.
Oh, yeah. Invest in Snuggies.
For sure.
Gosh, how cold is it up there at this point?
Where I am, it's not terribly cold, but just a little bit further north up where most of my family is, they've already got like a wicked ton of snow. So.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was wearing a t-shirt down here like yesterday, so.
Yeah, but you guys are like on the sun, aren't you? So.
More or less.
The sun, yeah, approximately. But only at night. So saying hi to folks in the chat here. Hello, Shale. Welcome. Appreciate you joining us. Mr. Kyle, hope you're having a good evening. Paul, my wonderful moderator, out in England, joining us 7 hours ahead. He's a champ. Mandragora, hey, I'm glad you could make it for one of our streams, man. Hope you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Plunderden, welcome. All right, let's see. Shale, my project for this evening, Bard character for my new D&D campaign. If I get into a groove, she's got a horse and a Vardo, traditional Romani wagon.
Now, wait a minute. Is that a miniature? Like he's doing the miniature for his D&D character, or is he's building the character sheet right now?
Bard character for new D&D campaign. I would imagine a miniature, but Shale can answer that. Oh, Mandragora's got a compliment for you there.
I'm just kind of curious, what's a traditional Romani wagon?
Well, I only know of Romani as in like Romani milk from Romani Ranch from Majora's Mask, Legend of Zelda. I don't know. He's painting minis. Mandragora thinks you're a good-looking man there, Disembodied Voice.
Why, thank you.
Patty, how you doing? He's squigging on by. I love some good squigs. We were, so I'm in an IKRPG right now with Patty, and we're talking about in the new year when this campaign wraps up, maybe doing a 40K RPG. Have you done any of those? Do you play RPGs, Kris?
Back in the day, I used to play some D&D, and yeah, occasionally play some RPGs, but not a lot. I'm more little miniature duders and rolling dice and working out my aggression that way.
Either feeling really good about yourself or really horrible, depending on how things go on the table.
Yeah, just a good old table flip, and that's about it. I'm good.
I haven't seen one of those in a while. I feel like whatever group I run around with, even when they get like amped up, I haven't seen a table flip in a long time. In fact, the last time
Just look up Alan Rickman flipping a table. It's fine.
There
You also have to make him tea.
He's done it all for all of us. No, I don't think I've seen people get as heated for Warhammer as they have in War Machine. So it's a much more chill.
War Machine, I can remember quite a few times where I thought the table was going to get flipped on me, or I was going to flip the table. Yeah.
Ooh.
For whatever reason, War Machine just seemed to bring that really kind of competitive
there is
energy
a lot.
out.
Yeah, there's so much pressure because the way War Machine would make you feel like you're losing in 40K for the most part. Like, yeah, there's good strategy to bring to the game. I'm not saying it can't be competitive or whatever, but for the most part, like the way the game plays, there's a lot of chaos to it. War Machine was always so precise that when you started losing, you felt like you were stupid. And so it like was a challenge. And so, yeah, people would get really heated, especially as they start losing. And it could still be where dice would fail. You'd get double ones on this, what was supposed to be a perfect charge that you can't reroll.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Many times. And I used to play Merc, so I would get my ass handed to me many, many times.
Okay.
Yeah, Mercs were not the strongest.
Not at all.
Fair enough. And I feel like this, maybe if you're going into it with a certain mindset, they're like, I'm just going to see what I can do. Like Dan would always play pigs. He'd play the Pharaoh and he'd do pretty good with them. But, if they didn't do well, he'd be like, yeah, it's fine. But that's not the most common personality you would see in the War Machine group. So
No, my favorite was Drake McBain for the Mercs and backed up with, and backed up by Alexia. That was
yes.
Yeah, on foot. And I would always have a bunch of halberds. They would be the first ones up with Alexia following pretty close. As soon as all the halberds started dying, she'd collect all the souls. Then bang, all the little zombies would pop up. Mm-hmm. And then on Drake's feet turn, I would make a couple of the zombies, whichever would block the lanes.
Yeah.
I'd make them indestructible because during Drake's feet turn, you couldn't, like, nobody would die. Or a number of, I'm pretty sure there was a way to take them out, but it was like an ordeal to do it. Yeah.
You haven't played the new edition, have you?
No, correct. No. No, that was second edition, I think last time I played.
Mark II was really the height of the game for the most part. Anyone who played War Machine for the most part loved that edition the most. There's some love for 3. Now there's 3.5, which is literally just a fan run version of the game for people who did not want to jump into 4, because when 4 came out, they retired softly basically most of the models. So people, that had some feels bad moments for people, so you can imagine.
Well, the thing is like for myself, I had a hard time getting into War Machine because I didn't really care for the models. I mean, I'm a visual kind of guy.
Yeah.
And the models didn't impress me, especially the Warjacks. They did not impress me at all.
Oh,
way back when.
Miranda.
Well,
it's interesting.
But like once I got into it, what really got me into the game was the rule set and how tight the rules were.
Oh yeah. Still some of the best written rules ever. For
100%. Yeah, 100%. Like the rules, the way, at least in second edition, it was great because they even gave you consistent language in the rules, and they gave you a way to resolve disputes. Mm-hmm. And that was excellent. Not just simply roll a die. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's a rules dispute, roll a die. Like that's not a way to resolve something, because then you're just going to end up going into that situation again. And then, oh, what did we do last time?
Different answer.
Roll a die,
Well, even that's easy to game, because it's like anytime a rule comes along, you're just like, I don't like how this is going. I'll contest it. So at least I have a 50-50 chance of it going my way,
Right. And that's Yeah, it's not that great. It's not satisfying. Whereas the old version of War Machine, right? It was very clear on the procedure on how to work out an issue regarding the rules. And that was fantastic. And that's when I really started getting into War Machine, because I really enjoyed the rules. And I started really enjoying the charm of the sculpts, and even the Warjacks grew on me. At first, the Warjacks really did not grow on me. It was really the Warjacks that I did not really care for. All the other models were fine. With Mercs, I mean, Drake McBain is an awesome sculpt. Alexia is probably the best sculpt, either her on foot or her horse version. Like there's so many great sculpts. And nowadays, for like Circle, they have that big eagle character, that big gargantuan.
Yeah.
That model's fantastic.
Yeah, no, there are some gorgeous models. The big wolves. I always liked the wolves. I thought they looked great. The rock golem.
Oh, the wolves are cool.
Yeah. But those were the days. Oh my gosh, are you getting warm already?
Yeah, I am. Actually, you know what? This is
too much. Oh no,
Yeah.
he's jumping on camera. Ah, this is a kid show. No, it's not a kid show.
I was gonna say, is this a kid show?
No. DM Blackwall, welcome to the chat. Patty's freezing it up in Idaho. Sorry, man. Oh, I'm playing Majora's Mask right now. So I have the remastered version of both Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time when they put it out on the Nintendo DS, which, funny enough, for the Nintendo Switch, they don't have the remastered versions for if you are playing in like the Nintendo shop. So I still bust out every so often, like every year, every other year, my Nintendo DS to replay Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, because in my heart they're still the best games ever made. They bring such joy to my heart. I love Majora's Mask. And bless the internet, all of my favorite old video games, and I don't know if anyone else has done this, probably because it's a whole genre on the internet. Are you familiar with like icebergs, right? Where you're like, here's this little bit of information. Here's a 5-hour deep dive into all of the details on it. And I have probably listened to like 20 or 25 hours of deep dives on like Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and Silent Hill 2, just because they were stories that I really loved. And I loved hearing someone else talk about how interested they were in them and what like symbolism they found and where references, how many references there were and what they were related to, and just iconography. It was so fun. So, how I spend my time, and probably part of why I don't get more done. But anyway, I do love me some icebergs once in a while. Anyway, Majora's Mask, fantastic, horribly underrated game, and Disembodied Voice's opinion is not valid here.
What?
Your shade you throw on my Majora's Mask.
Oh, well, I don't know that I don't like Majora's Mask. It's just there's two things that I specifically don't like. One is you're running around basically running errands for so many people on there. It's less adventuring and more running errands. And then the other side is every place you go looks like a shanty town. Doesn't look like a medieval village.
Not
like it looks like
though.
Corrugated metal like walls and like
not in the
together.
Remastered version though.
Looks like you're in District 9.
In District 9. What? No.
That's a good movie though.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good movie. I wish Chappie was better because that was the same creator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish Elysium was better.
Oh, Elysium's horrible.
Yeah.
It had some good moments, but yeah, it's pretty disjointed.
Yeah. Well, the visuals in a lot of the science fiction is really cool in both of those.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Or in all three of the movies. But yeah, like District 9's the most interesting. It's probably the best told story.
Yeah, it's the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels the most relevant.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I'd say
Whereas
so.
Chappie feels kind of situational, where you have the person out of their element, out of
the fish out of water.
Yeah. Well, so I don't want to ruin it because Miranda hasn't actually watched it yet, and I'm gonna have her watch it soon. But Chappie is just Short Circuit.
Oh yeah.
A little bit, yes. It is. It's a little bit Short Circuit. You haven't watched Chappie yet, though?
No, she's seen Chappie.
Oh, Short Circuit. That's classic.
The
I
better
know. There's a
it's a
lot
classic.
of classics that apparently I just have holes for. I just haven't seen.
You know, I mean, you know, you're delving into the archive of the greatest actor of all time, Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
and some Police Academy.
Yeah, some Police Academy. Make her sit through Police Academy.
Oh, I don't
Like
know.
all of them. Oh, I think you would. I think you would enjoy Police Academy.
All 12 of them.
Yeah.
Boy, it's all 12. Do a marathon.
Is it 12? I didn't know it was
No,
that many.
I don't know.
It's a bunch.
It's like
Yeah,
a Fast and Furious series.
Yeah,
for Police
yeah, yeah.
Academy. Oh God.
Back in the 80s when cocaine was king.
But like in the writer's room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Lee.
No, well, I was going to say, did you guys check out Gladiator 2?
No. It's
No.
No?
I have not yet. I have not heard good things about it. I was always skeptical. I don't know. I just don't know.
I will say, because I watched it this weekend, and I will say that the negative reviews, most of them, from what I've seen, are not unfounded.
Okay.
A couple, there's really only one main thing in the whole movie that kind of just pulls it all apart for me. And I don't want to spoil it if you guys haven't seen it. So,
Okay.
but
Well,
it is.
Probably we will. It's the sort of thing we probably will.
I mean, I would rank it. I would rank it a 7 on its own.
Okay.
Whereas Gladiator, the first one, is like a 9 point whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
a-
yeah.
Amazing movie, the first Gladiator.
The first Gladiator film, yes, is excellent.
So like part of the problem I have with it is that well, first of all, like Gladiator's such a self-contained movie, right? Like nothing about Gladiator asked for a sequel. And so it reminds me, there's some comedy I end up watching, it's like 10 years ago or something. I want to say it has Steve Coogan in it, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's his character in this comedy, I can't remember the name of the comedy, he was trying to get a movie made, and he was trying to make Hamlet 2. Like the sequel to Hamlet. And so if you remember anything about Hamlet, not a lot of people survive Hamlet. And so it just reminds me of that. It feels like they're trying to make Hamlet 2.
Yeah, and if that's your sentiment into that story, Gladiator 2 is a similar thing.
Yeah, okay.
And there is one thing in it. There's one point that I do not care for. A lot of other reviewers have touched on it.
Yeah.
Some of them quite heavily. I don't want to, again, like I said, I want to ruin it, but I concur with their assessments because, yeah, there's in the vein of movies that really don't need to get made. This falls in that. Yeah, this falls in that category.
Another one.
It's unnecessary, but like I said, it's not a horrible movie. It's just it's the age we live in right now, where everything's all about nostalgia. They want to capitalize on all this nostalgia, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, on Twisted Bishop's right, Ridley Scott has not been impressive in his last several attempts at making movies. So
No,
not really. No.
yeah, fair enough.
I mean, Napoleon was pretty good, but
we haven't seen that one.
But
Sure.
Napoleon, it already had like a director's cut. Like shortly after they released it, then all of a sudden the director's cut came out like shortly after. And I was like, oh, I haven't checked out the director's cut, but
I wonder if that makes it any better.
I would assume so because they gloss over quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if I watch
like,
the director's cut seems like what I would go to then.
But like Napoleon isn't an autobiography or anything like that, and it's barely a historical film. I mean, Ridley Scott movies are not historical films. If you're
that's kind of what I heard.
Yeah, if you're trying to glean history from a Ridley Scott film, don't bother. You mean lost the plot?
Not even Alien?
Not especially not Alien.
That's not historical? What the
I don't know. I look back on Blade
Documentary.
Runner and I kind of see some things.
Yeah,
I look back on Demolition Man and feel like that was perfectly like
that was a future documentary.
Pathetic.
Hey, we're not too far from the 3 shells, right?
That was such a joke during all the lockdowns, right? Because of the toilet paper thing. It's like, the 3 seashells are coming out. It's like, yes.
Yeah, but like the year that Demolition Man takes place, like that's not too far off, isn't it? It's like we're coming up on that time.
Oh gosh,
I
what
think
year?
we passed it.
Did we?
Oh, did we pass it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Might have been fun.
Speaking of chat, by the way, I actually love Kingdom Death. So yeah, that's a great game.
Time will
Kingdom
tell.
Death, yeah. I like the minis.
I have still never
Oh.
played Kingdom Death. Jeff was
Not-
Well,
mentioning
you don't
that
play
here.
anything that's a board game, really.
Well, not if I can help it. But
Not so we're
What
not
about
quite
Risk?
there yet. So it came
Big
out.
Risk.
Demolition Man takes place in 2032.
Oh, okay.
We're almost there.
Almost there.
We're not
Okay,
far.
so the 3 seashells is still a ways off. Whoever
So we
figures that out is the next millionaire.
Yeah, we got time to work out the 3 seashells.
You know it's going to be Japan, right? We all know it's Japan that's going to do it. Like they're the king of toilets right now. Like they're.
I mean, I'm only
They have
I'm only a Q-tip and 1 seashell at the moment. So I got to get up to the 3 seashells.
We all know a lot
Yes.
more about Kris than we did 30 seconds ago. Been a fan of Demolition Man since I was 6. Has shaped who I am. I saw it. So it was several years ago now, right?
It was probably 10 years ago that you saw that.
I remember watching it, just being like, I love this movie so much. I have a whole all my Catachan I painted after like all of my favorite action guys, and so I've got Simon Phoenix as one of my Catachan models. Oh, actually,
That's
I think
cool.
he's downstairs. I can
He's
probably grab it.
He's a flamethrower operator,
Yeah,
right?
he's a
Yeah,
flamethrower operator.
But he's got the pants, like the orange or whatever pants, and the
Yes.
mohawk.
I was very, very proud of myself for that. I've got all the Predator dudes from it. I've got Vasquez from Aliens in there.
That's cool.
She's got a grenade launcher, and Flo actually went in detail. I think you painted it, but I think you had
Yeah,
Flo.
You did the
Go
micro
in
pen.
Yeah, so use a micro pen, so her grenade launcher says adios on the
It
side of
wasn't
it.
a micro pen for that. I actually had to paint that on because it's white.
Yeah, I think it was a brush she used.
Yeah, I had to brush that one.
Aw, I miss our old movie chats. But whenever I last talked to you, Kris, and we were having a movie chat, neither you nor Adam would like go to the movie theaters. So all your movie references are like 20 years old. And I'm like, what
You're
about
like-
this movie? This movie? You're like, no, I haven't seen it. Oh,
You're like, all right, so with the new movie, and both you guys are like, well, I haven't seen it. It hasn't come to streaming yet.
And now he's telling us movies in the theater that we haven't seen.
Well,
Thanks.
in the last couple of years, I have been going to the show more. Mainly because there is a laser projector, which is like IMAX,
Oh, cool.
near me. So that's why I've been going to that. And I've only been going to that. So like it was Dune, the first one, Top Gun Maverick, right?
Oh, I bet that was
Those were, Top Gun Maverick was worth the price of seating and everything like that. Plus too, I like the chairs in the theater. They're reclining, like with the headrest, and they got heaters, and they're really, really nice. But anyway,
do you get people who fall asleep next to you?
no, that's usually just me and my boy, or the boy and the wife, or somebody, just usually. But that's where we've been going for the show, is just for like anything that's like anything we've been feeling like would be great on the big screen, and we've been going to that. Anything else, like for example, what's coming out right now, and I'm like, I could wait till it comes out on.
There's that Red One movie, that horrible Santa looking one with the rock, which I hear was not good.
No, it was the Craven one, because I had seen the trailer on the weekend.
Oh yeah, with the hot guy who's now hot, but he was from Kick-Ass. He was a BB kid.
Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Hot Kick-Ass. Yeah.
What about Nosferatu is actually coming out this year. That's going to be really
We're
cool.
definitely seeing that in the theater.
Yeah.
But there's another one as well, right? Is it Salem's Lot or something like that that's also coming out?
That does sound familiar. But I don't remember.
But either way, I think Nosferatu is the one. It's what's his name that did the Northman, and he did the Vitch.
David Eggers.
He was it.
Yeah, he's like very all in on historical stuff. Even though I hated The Lighthouse, but I kind of loved it.
You kind of love The Lighthouse, though.
It looks amazing. Like if it were half the runtime, I think I would love the movie.
The prop department must have had an amazing time making The Lighthouse. Is all I can
they had as Fry would put it, they had the good kind of mermaid.
Salem's Lot apparently came out on Max last month, so maybe that's.
It was just streaming.
Yeah.
All right, then that's very low likelihood I'll watch it.
Yeah, now see, for like going to the show, I'm very unlikely to go to a horror film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's not as much of a spectacle as something that is a bit bigger studio production, right? Like,
Well, yeah.
or something that was shot for IMAX, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. Like Dune, both Dunes were fantastic in the IMAX.
Oh yeah,
That's the experience. And
yeah, that would be worth seeing in IMAX.
Oh, yeah.
I love seeing that in the theater.
Oh yeah, it was excellent. I'm trying to. Yeah, we watched Gladiator. Gladiator was fine. Couple of little points in it, but it was fine. I'm trying to remember what the hell the other last movie we just watched in the theater.
I guess there is a new Sonic movie. I've not seen any of those, but my brothers told me that they're actually pretty good.
I enjoy the Sonic movies.
I've not caught a single Sonic. I've barely played the video game, so I'm not up on all the lore.
I played the video game for my what was it? What was the handheld? The Sega Game Gear. The Game Gear. Then it got
I
stolen
played it on
from me,
Sega
so I didn't play
Saturn.
that anymore. And then
It was back in Sega Saturn days. The last time I played.
Well, no,
Well-
the Dreamcast had a Sonic game. That was
I'm just saying it's the last time I played, not the last one that came out.
yeah. Well, the last one I played, I think, was that. Oh, Jerry
Well,
DeBacca. Okay, yeah. So Avatar. I don't think I like those movies at all. But if you're going to see them, IMAX 3D, right, the way to do it, right, because it's such a spectacle movie.
Oh yeah, the first Avatar, in IMAX 3D was unbelievable. Like when you're watching them walk through the command center and they have like those screens that are just kind of projecting up. You swear to God, you could see them, touch them, and you know what I mean. Like it was really, really, really great. The second film in the category of films that really don't need to be made.
Yep.
Yeah, the second film, I mean, is
What are you
visually
talking
great.
about? There's a third one already planned.
There's like 5. He's got 5 on the go, and it's like, really, like, do we really need 5 avatars? I don't think so. The first one got the point across. Was a good film. Had really great effects, you know, and
They're just shell movies he makes to fund his oceanic exploratory missions. I believe he actually got a vessel made using some funding or whatever type. Like he basically just leverages Hollywood money to fund his oceanic research.
well, yeah,
I mean, blame them for.
No, I mean, rich people don't get rich by spending their own money, right? So
I know, a lesson I really need to learn one of these days.
just spend Tom's money.
So speaking of movie reviews, there's we had a fun time just recently in Austin with a movie reviewer.
Did.
So
Yes.
we were basically played a game of Warhammer with Angry Joe. So I don't know if people are familiar with Angry Joe. He's done movie reviews.
I am familiar. I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but I am familiar.
Yeah. So Jade is right there. He's part of the bolt action community. So
yeah,
we kind of got connected that way. And I met Joe at Adepticon this year. And so we had talked about like getting together because, you know, he's a state away. And while that other state is Texas, and that is not a short drive,
that's a large state.
technically he's not that far away. So we went from Albuquerque to Austin to play a game of 40K, which, you know, could be a questionable use of time depending on who you ask, but it was really fun. The board was really cool. He put these rocks down to help make sure like it has this real nice integrated look. And as you can, it was a 1,500 point game, and I brought every tank I could possibly squeeze in there. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and so this was just streamed on Twitch, but he is doing an actual battle report. So when that comes up, make sure you follow us on Facebook and stuff, because we'll link to it and let everyone know when it comes out.
Yeah.
So you can see the exciting conclusion.
It is a violent game, I'll tell you that. It gets freaking crazy violent. So it's wonderful. Incidentally,
Yes.
I also do agree with Plunder Den, because Big Trouble in Little China is a movie that holds
Amazing
up
movie.
Chef's Kiss to this day perfectly. It is an amazing movie that will never, I can't imagine ever being made again in like at least the current state of Hollywood. But it is such a gem of a movie.
I think you have an easier time picking Carpenter films that don't stand the test of time.
You might.
That's probably true.
That's probably a shorter list.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
like for me, They Live, top of the list.
Oh, okay.
The thing
Thing
that absolutely holds up today.
Oh
Now-
yeah, that the part
Could
with
you-
the blood in the wire. and he's burning the wire. That makes me jump every time.
Yeah,
I jump every time.
Great effect, and it was all practical and still.
Oh yeah.
Up. Now the thing, I love that. It's another Chef's Kiss movie, but I don't know that I can think of a movie that Kurt Russell is in that I haven't really enjoyed either. So there's that. He's great.
Overboard.
I've never seen it.
You know what? I like Overboard. Overboard's good times. It's I mean, Goldie Hawn is in it.
It's husband and wife team. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, it's just it's an 80s kind of romantic comedy kind of movie.
Yeah, it's got a good message, and I know they did a remake which apparently bombed really bad. But
did they? Ugh.
Yeah, again, it's this age we're in right now where they're just trying to cash in on this nostalgia.
Well, it's
people
like
who remember things fondly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's make that, and it's like Gremlins. Imagine. Well,
No,
Gremlins.
don't put that out in the atmosphere. Don't let anyone
whoa,
hear
whoa, whoa!
that.
Don't say that out loud.
That's already been floated many, many times. And the only way that's going to get happen,
go through the ringer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only way that Gremlins is going to get done is if it's all puppets again.
Oh yeah,
that's the only way.
Give that a go if it's all puppets again.
Oh yeah, same here.
Well, on the thing, there's actually because I think Amalgamated Dynamics. I think they're the ones that worked on the sequel to the thing, and they talk about it, and it's like they went through. So I don't know if you saw the sequel to the thing. It's really a prequel. Had Ramona Flowers in it. The Elizabeth Winstead, but she's in it, and someone else was in it, some other name, but like they had gone through and Amalgamated Dynamics came up under Stan Winston, right? It was when he died, they were one of the teams that split away, and so they did tons of really cool practical effects, and then at the last minute, some producers like lost their nerve and hired a CG team to go in and quote unquote touch it up. And so when you go into theater, it just looks like it's a bunch of CG stuff. Even the practical stuff, because of the slight, enhancement, it looks like it's all CG. And it's
I'd call it tampering, not even this.
Yeah, it's tampering.
Yeah, they just tamper with the image. They color grade it, and then because they're going to throw some digital effect on it.
Yep.
And then it doesn't match what the film looked like, and so then they got to like push the color here and there, raise contrast. You know what I mean? Like they got to play with the whole image. And then it just ends up all looking fake, right?
No, it is horrible. In fact, it ruined it ruined Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. If you remember,
oh my God.
That movie. When you look at the behind the scenes for it,
it's way creepier
because all the actual like things around. They had this like contortionist guy to be one of the monsters, but then they go and enhance it and they make it look so fake. I wanted that movie to be so good because I love those books, but we don't get what we want in this world anymore.
I think that effect is so. Whenever they made the birds, if you watch Alfred Hitchcock talking about it, they had a handful of birds, right? Like when there's a famous scene where the lady's singing the song and the crows are amassing on the little jungle gym thing behind her, and every time the camera cuts back, there's more birds. Well, the thing is most of them are fake and just sitting there. And they took a few birds and sort of lashed their feet to the little thing, right? And so a few birds would flap their wings, and it made you think they were all moving. And I think CG is the same way. It's The Birds. However, The Burbs is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. But,
The Birds are the Burbs.
But it's CG works that way because it's like if you see a little bit of CG, you feel like it's all CG. Yeah. If you notice that there a little bit of it is that plasticky stuff, it makes it suddenly all the practicality of it, all the practical work is just gone. It's all CG.
Yeah.
Even if it's
your immersion is lost right away.
Yeah.
You're automatically just reminded, slapped right in the face. Oh, you're watching a movie.
By the way, I was gonna say, by the way, The Burbs, one of the few movies people don't realize Carrie Fisher's in.
Mm-hmm. She just has a super normal role.
Yeah.
Twisted Bishop has a fun suggestion. They've already been making those kind of those trailers. I don't know if you've seen many of them, but they'll have movie and show trailers like the Lord of the Rings if it took place on the bayou. And
they're using AI to do that?
They're using AI to make these motion graphics to I don't know. They look crazy, and some of them are to songs. And yeah, it's worth seeing. What is it, like Demon Flying Fox, I think, is a popular one. He's done like the real life like Panavision version of The Simpsons, which is very creepy and eerie looking. Jurassic Park. What was the Jurassic Park one? It was as if it was something else too, but yeah, they're creepy and weird, and you can tolerate them for about a trailer's long.
And so, of course, I'm about to play one.
Of course.
Of course.
I need to take a second here. But yeah, they're kind of amazing.
CG was a problem in Alien 3, right? I don't know. I saw Alien 3 long time ago and have not seen it since.
There's
it too.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
Alien
too.
3, there is CG, but like a lot of the alien itself was a puppet. And, yeah.
So I'm not going to play the whole thing, but
Yeah, don't.
Oh, Jesus.
No. That's Gandalf. No, that's Belleau.
Gandalf rode up on his mule named Joe. Said that brings trouble. We gotta hit the road. Leave the swamp behind and the mountains ahead. We're just good old boys doing what Gandalf said. Frodo's carrying the ring and it's dragging slow, but we're marching through the mud with a steady flow. Aragorn's a tracker hunting coons at
That's pretty
night.
good.
Came the swinging axes, but his aim ain't right. Legolas is prepping, shooting butts off logs.
Like Brad Pitt.
Toenails, yelling at the dogs. Saruman's a neighbor's always causing grief.
I love his tower.
Scheming in his tower like a backwoods thief.
So I'm not going to play the whole thing because, someone else made that video. But
Yeah, I love that anytime you get a CG or an AI girl, like all it does is go to a supermodel database. Like you can make a hideous redneck dude, no problem in AI. You can make every kind of dude you want in AI. There's one type of female in AI when you make a girl.
look,
I don't know.
all right?
I'm not gonna lie. I think Aragorn was pretty hot in that clip.
He looked
This
pretty
is
good.
fair.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like you got good looking guys and like what we saw there. And
We also had Gimli. Let's be real.
Gimli, you're Gandalf. But no, all AI girls are all 10s apparently. So
I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of attention paid to
well, it speaks
certain.
to where it's farmed from, right? It's more of a
Yes.
commentary on that. Like, where's the data coming from? It's like, well, I'm not gonna look up ugly broads. And it's like, okay.
Well, let me just say, there's probably not a lot of women working in the AI sector. There's definitely some, but it's certainly dominated
Just
by
the programmers who sometimes marry their pillows.
But also too, the source material also does not treat women very well either.
Oh, hey. What is it?
Because Tolkien couldn't write women.
I loved Eowyn. What do you mean?
So I mean, even the subject matter, I'm trying to think of where you would have many women where he would have written, because so much of it is just you're out, marching and you're adventuring and you're doing all that stuff. Not a lot of women doing that.
No.
You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, a lot of his experiences marching and adventuring and going through it was in World War I.
What about
No.
Shelob? Was she not written well enough? I mean, come on.
Yeah. what
She's
the
a
hell?
spider.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any
But
lines in the
doesn't have
movie.
any-
A well-written spider. Thank you.
not everything has to be dialogue, Chris. You can act a lot
Well-
with your body.
I do agree. I mean, like I can appreciate of silent moments in films, or even a silent movie or silent performance. I think those are excellent in the modern age. But I mean, dialogue is key. I mean, that's why you can always go back to a Tarantino film and enjoy it, because the dialogue is just so well written.
Yeah.
Well, you look at a lot of writers and their strengths, right? Like some writers, their strength really is just, you can sit and listen to the characters just talk for like 10 minutes, and then other writers, you're like, we need to move the plot on. Let's go.
Yeah. And sometimes the dialogue is just there to keep the plot going, as opposed to giving you insight into the character. Right. And really good dialogue will give you insight as well as moving the plot forward.
Yes.
Did
Dialogue is fine as long as it's not exposition.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in movies. It is 100% show, don't tell.
Well, as long as it's not naked exposition, there's really well written exposition out there that you just didn't even realize
True.
exposition was being handed to you.
Yeah. But that's really good though, because they
Yeah.
were showing it to you or they
Yes.
were telling you and you didn't realize that, and to go back a page, CG should be in that same category. It should be invisible. You should not be taken out of a moment because of a CG element in
Oh yeah.
you know.
Well, CG
Unless
should be
that's
like
part of the
audio.
joke or something. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
CG should be like audio, where you don't realize anyone did anything with audio until somebody messed up.
Yeah.
And then when somebody messes up, you're like, what's that audio? But the really good audio engineers, you forget that there's even audio in the movie. You just are watching something real. And CG should probably fall into that as well.
100%.
What?
I was gonna say,
hmm.
I'm painting some white skies. More and more white skies. I just finished delivering a bunch of bikes for him.
Now, what is that little dune buggy called? Do you remember? It's one of the newer models for the Uber Marines.
Primaris?
Yeah. What the
I
heck
was
is
gonna say,
that thing
I have to
called?
look it up because usually I show up and they're like, here's a whole stack of things. They're painted like white skies. I don't get names of things usually.
I thought it was called an ATV or something like that.
Invader.
I mean, it looks like an ATV,
Invader, and
but-
I think
It's an Invader?
it's an Invader. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was just starting to look it up myself. I was like, what is that thing?
Warhammer 40k White Scar Doom Buggy. Invader
Yeah.
Savage Brewski's got it too.
Like it's really quite funny. Like with the Primaris, they gave them these wheeled vehicles and such. When with the Primaris, they introduced more anti-grav.
Well, yeah, and they already had the Space Marine, not the jet bike, the speeder.
Yeah.
Right. They already had
Speeder,
that
yeah.
for regular Marines. It's like, why would you not build on that technology?
Right? Why not just do a super Primaris, land speeder, right? Because everything seems to be about making whatever was the Space Marines into Primaris Space Marines, and everything get bigger, right? Like the Rhinos are bigger, the Land Raiders are bigger, the Dreadnoughts are bigger, the Marines are bigger, right?
You know what this was for?
Yes.
So this vehicle is made specifically to fight against orcs, because what it is it's a diversionary vehicle, because all the orcs will chase that thing down because they want to loot it so bad, because orcs want a dune buggy, right? And so really that's not there as a fighting vehicle. That's just there to make orcs chase it, right? It's
You just asked,
draw
the
them out.
12-year-old version of me want this? Okay, my orcs want this. That's how you lead
Yes.
orcs.
Now, here's another thing about that vehicle and the thinking in Warhammer 40,000. Why would a fully armored guy in super adamantium armor that's practically indestructible be in a vehicle that's super armored, indestructible, right? That little thing. Yet the inflatable tires are fully exposed.
You
Like,
know,
why would that make sense?
are you sure they're inflated tires and they're not just like solid rubber?
Would they be solid rubber? I mean, that'd be hard on the old spine, wouldn't it?
It's not hard on a super genetically engineered spine.
I don't know.
No, I don't. I feel like they're the same thing that the motorcycle wheels are made of, because they're about the same width.
Yeah, I imagine they're inflated. I mean, they'd have to be, because if they were solid on whatever crazy ass world they're on, some swamp world, desert world, whatever, right? I mean, you need some sort of shock absorber.
That's true. You should.
You
probably would want that, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if 40k cares so much about
Realism.
your lumbar and back.
Oh yeah. Like the
general
realism
health and safety of their military.
Well, like the realism in Warhammer 40,000. I mean, the planes, like the Space Marine planes. There's no curvature on the leading edge. So how does that thing get lift? Unless of course it's just the jets that just push it as hard as it can go.
Well, I think it's a certain amount of anti-grav, because you look at the Valkyrie as well, right?
Yeah.
Like the Valkyrie is also just straight, flat edges. There's no curve along the wings, so there's no lift. But on the ends of the wings, they have these little jet thrusters, and I feel like there's just anti-grav, like a light anti-grav in there somewhere, to get it to lift off the way it does.
Okay, but here's one of the things, right? So like if we're sitting here trying to figure out the background, the lore, and what have yous, if we can just simply explain it away as being just anti-grav, then and anti-grav is and everything, then why make the distinction of anti-grav for Space Marine tanks and speeders and all these other things within the Imperium that need anti-gravity?
Well, I suppose it could be that it's the chief propulsion system. And so whatever, because even if you think of those tanks, they're anti-grav, but they still have to have some form of thrust to move them around. But you still would refer to them as anti-grav, right?
Sure.
And so,
I
mean,
think
like,
Agora, by the way, like probably shouldn't have Space Marines driving all of those things.
to be fair,
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the Space Marine vehicles, they just have a machine spirit that drives it. It's like the
Well,
co-pilot.
For Space Marines, the lore used to be that it was always a Tech Marine. Tech Marine was the driver. So in the Rhinos and the Land Raiders,
okay.
stuff like that, it's always supposed to be a Tech Marine. And the Tech Marines there's supposed to be a fair number of them because they're always getting sent off to the Mars or whatever to get trained and then come back and they do their internship and but being drivers, so like the driver for that little ATV invader thing, that really should be a Tech Marine in the front, driving it. But I mean, it's a little scout vehicle, so I'm sure it'd be just like some duder driving.
Yeah,
it.
I guess they don't care about the scouts either. They're not as superhumanly powerful, right, as the full-on Marines.
Well, they used to have like the Scout Cyclone, which I always thought was a really cool. It's like lightly armored, fast attack. It's like it seemed to really fit thematically. It's like a flying SUV where it just.
And I liked how it had the Space Marines dangling off the side as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Like they look like they're ready to fast rope down into business.
It looked heroic, and I mean, like the idea being with Space Marines, they want them to be the heroes, so they should always have things where they should look heroic. Unfortunately, within the lore, Space Marines aren't heroes because they're just merely instruments of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that means that they sometimes can be heroes. I think the Salamanders try really hard to, be a good example to humanity. But then, yeah, you're right. You get, I don't know, Grey Knights and everyone's just scared and nervous around them.
Space Marines are nervous around them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Well, because in the lore of Warhammer 40,000, Grey Knights, like at least in the older lore, you're not supposed to know about the Grey Knights. You're not supposed to know about them. They're a secret organization.
It's
right?
the first
And
rule
if
of
you-
Grey Knight Club.
Yeah, and if you do see them or talk to them, whatever, yeah, you're pretty much dead, or they have to exterminate us your planet because you're not supposed to know about them. So they would just wipe out a whole planet if like there was one little city that had ghosts and the Grey Knights came in and took care of the ghosts, they'd still exterminate us the planet. Like, what was the freaking point, right?
All right, so it makes me really need to share this if we're talking about Space Marine vehicles. So this is just way too cool.
Oh, okay. This is your segue, is it?
Yes. I ran across this recently. This video is like 4 years old, but it makes me feel like it makes me think of jump Marines. Like this has got to be what a jump pack is.
Aquilons. What are you talking about?
Well, it really should be the Elysians, but this looks science fiction right here.
They didn't want to make that. They wanted to have the Scion rules because that's how they've organized the rule book. Guarantee you that's going to be the reason.
But they're if you look at the agility of these guys, like these packs, that's what I think of as like, not the Celestial, the like Jump Marines or I just blanked on the Sisters of Battle, the Seraphim.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they move around like this.
The new guys in the last Kill Team box with the Vespid.
Yeah, well, those should have been
Scions.
Elysians in the last one, but now there's Scion versions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how quickly you can just lift off the ground or just move around and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, this has been around for a little while. And years ago, I saw YouTube people trying to create stuff like this. And I didn't realize it had kind of manifested in this company that was making them. So this is like the British Navy that's testing them out for like shipboarding and stuff. But it really makes me feel like a Warhammer. Like this has got to be like 41st millennium stuff. So that guy just takes off. He's just going to go hang out with his guys in the raft here in a second.
No
like,
big deal.
Like that's what I think of as Jump Marines, right?
Yeah.
So when you mentioned before, Tom, that this is science fiction brought to life.
Yeah.
But it's not science fiction anymore because we're looking at it. It's a reality. So what is it now?
It's science fact.
Yeah, it's science. It just goes back to science.
Yeah.
Is it so? Because I mean, like when
Science
we
nonfiction.
well, like when we were kids, right? Cloning was science fiction.
They
Yeah.
had Dolly the sheep.
Now it's a reality.
Transparent aluminum.
Transparent aluminum.
Transparent
No,
aluminum. 100%.
Yes, that's a reality now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you see a lot of those things, and it's like imagination. It's where it. So much of like, especially in the Warhammer world, but in tabletop miniatures in general, so much stuff that starts off as imagination is what paves the way for engineers to start working toward creating reality. I mean, the flip phone. I mean, the guy openly says, yeah, like Captain Kirk's communicator is what I wanted the flip phone to be. And so there you go. Now you have the flip phone. And then it moves on to Star Trek Next Generation, where you just have the little, your little iPads and stuff like that. That's
well, even the iPad.
Yeah.
Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah.
They were all using iPads.
Yeah. And so what it does is people like imagination is what guides the future. Engineers just kind of build what's laid out. A lot of engineers don't have a lot of creativity, but they have a lot of they are inspired by a lot of creativity. And it's why you need creative minds to create really cool stuff that kind of drives that sort of stuff forward, right?
Sure.
And so like it's why whenever you see this stuff, you're just like, yeah, the future is now.
Yeah, that's why like this AI, like it'll peter out. It's already starting to. And,
What do you mean?
Well, because it can't create.
Well, yeah, it
can't
still
create
requires an
new.
artist
Yeah,
to use it as a tool to create.
Yeah.
Genuine creativity is a human thing.
Yes.
And AI can't do it. AI can't create.
Well,
And-
AI doesn't even have a motivation to create. AI just responds to what you tell it to do, and that's it.
Yeah.
And even
So
if you try
AI
to program in a imperative to create, that's still you having told it to do it.
Right. And it's such an ambiguous term that the computer's not going to know what that means. You would have to teach it an entire lifetime of what creativity is to take genuine inspiration to solve a problem that doesn't even exist. Right?
Man, my chat is on fire tonight.
Savage Bruce has got a great one.
Why? What happened?
See the little comments here below.
I'm so entertained by everybody tonight. This is great. AI can be very entertaining. That is different than being creative.
Yes.
He says.
Give a dog some peanut butter. You'll see something entertaining. I don't know that the dog is being creative.
For sure. No, because I mean, like AI, like when it was first becoming, the talk of the town, I was on the side of, it's the wave of the future, is, everything, and artists and everything like that going to be gone, right? Mm-hmm. But then after watching it and watching what it does and seeing how everybody tries to, they pull their information from different sources and everything like that, and it's just not going to replace an actual person who has a general knack for problem solving and for creative thinking.
Yes, but I think
and until they can map the human brain in digitally, it's not going to happen.
We don't need to be talking about Neuralink. I'm not ready for that brain freaking microchips in the brain. No, thank you.
Nah, that's all hype too. That's way off. That technology's way off.
Yeah.
But what AI does,
it's like cryo. It's like cryo engineering.
Oh yeah,
that's way off as well.
Yeah, no, we're not there yet. But what AI does do, I was just going to say, is that it does take a lot of people who are very mid at these things, because there's a lot of people who perform art that are not necessarily creative. Like artists can be creative or more performative. Like I tend to think of myself maybe as more performative. Like I'll copy things, or you do acting. You're still working with something someone else made. And I do think AI can be very competitive against people who are not necessarily creative but are more performative, and that's a
sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like for 100%, like for yourself, for example, if you had a vast body of work, art, imagery, videos, and it's all you. It's you created it all, but you used AI to help you with your next project. Yeah, you would be way more faster and probably get way more done if you had an AI looking at all your previous work and give you ideas for creating something new or taking all your previous thumbnails and
Yeah.
making a new thumbnail. You know what I mean? Like AI, yes, 100% can do that for you.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll spit out something that looks pretty much new, but
well, it
it's
takes
not.
a handful of other aspects of it as well, right? On the one hand, I've done computer animation for decades, and I remember 20 years ago, people were like, "Oh my gosh, this stuff's getting so good, you won't even need actors. Give it 5 years, and you won't even need actors anymore." Well, here we are, 20 years down the road, we're still using actors. And it's like, yeah, you can create CG characters, but I mean, even what is it like? You look at Gollum as an example. There's still an actor driving him, and look at everyone's favorite Jar Jar, right? One of the greatest CG characters ever made. I'm just saying, just to trigger, but it's you kind of have that, and there's still a person behind it driving a performance, right? And even if you're like, well, the animators went in and did a bunch of stuff. Now there's a bunch of animators with an artistic eye that are driving the performance. The way that like the animators who originally made, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, the animators for that were driving a lot of the performance along with the voice acting. And it's like, there's always a human hand in anything that's an actual creative performance. The other side of it is there was a photograph that was released a little while back that won in an actual photography competition. And after he won, he said, this was generated entirely with AI, and it was just with prompts. He didn't even go in and touch it up with anything. And it's like, oh, that means a lot. And it's like, well, actually, it means that there's about 10,000 like reprompts of that picture he did until he found one that his human eye recognized as the good one. AI didn't know which one of those was good. It just kept pushing it out. And to me, that really is the analogy of, what is it, 1,000 monkeys chained to 1,000 typewriters over 1,000 years will eventually write War and Peace. It's that sort of thing. Those monkeys have no idea what they're doing. They just, as long as they keep hitting keys randomly, they will eventually do it. It takes a human eye to actually notice whenever it's done something creative. And I mean, that's what an artist always is anyway, is your skill will get better, but you yourself have always been the creative driving force behind your developing skill.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think, I think it's like centuries away when computers are to the point where they can replace an artist. Art is a purely human endeavor. I think art will always be a human endeavor. I think as long as we're creating art, we're still human. If we're not creating art, then we've become something else.
Yes.
And
well,
again,
it always examines the human condition.
Right. But what really drives this whole conversation about AI and art, and even other things, CG and film, and all these aspects of using these tools, what is the underlying factor when we're talking about this? Like, why is it that there's this push for AI? Why are we pushing for this so hard?
So I think
obviously it's something doesn't sit right with us.
I think there's kind of two levels to it. On the one hand, we've had a bunch of creative minds that have been creating some amazing novels and movies and all kinds of stuff that has really created, like, piqued our imagination about AI. And then on the other side of it, I think you're kind of right. It also leans into the horror genre, where it's a little creepy. It's a little like there's an uncanny valley about it, where you can go to Chat GPT and you're like, hey, write a story. And it kind of does. And you're like, oh, that's weird. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it has a little bit of uncanny uneasiness to it, on top of a certain fascination with it as well. So I think that really piques our curiosity about it.
Well, as I was going to say, it's what the underlying factor is with AI and this whole push. It is money, purely money. It's not the artists who are pushing for this. It's not the fans or the communities or the consumer. They're not pushing for this. It's the industries. They want to lower the cost of what it costs to pay an artist to come up with something original, and they're just going to pull from all the libraries of the internet to get their information. That's why they want this AI to take over, because they don't have to actually pay anybody for it. And if you don't actually have to pay for anybody for it, then that means that you can use whatever imagery, sounds, whatever you want.
Mhm.
You actually don't have to accredit anybody. You don't have to pay royalties to anybody.
You mean like
Right?
the White Dwarf, or I'm sorry, the Games Workshop story team, where there's not an actual name attached to it. That's just the story team that writes things. And so
Well,
I'm positive that there's AI stories getting posted
Yeah.
in
Oh,
White
sure.
Dwarf
Feels like I get
Oh,
to read them.
Oh yeah, sure.
so that they don't have to get.
Because again, it is an industry, and I mean, we have this impression of Games Workshop being this big, massive, mega corporation when
Mhm.
they're not. They're not that big.
No.
And
Yeah.
even their legal team, you think, oh, everybody's scared of GW's legal team. Even GW's legal team is very, very small. And so even that Warhammer stories or Warhammer TV stuff, it's a handful of people working on that,
Yeah.
because Games Workshop is not the big giant that everybody thinks they are. They're big. They're the biggest fish in the pond, but this pond is not that big.
Well, let me
Yeah.
push back on you on that just a little bit. I mostly agree with you, but there's a little bit more. There's this one here, the art is being devalued thing. I'll actually argue with you that for the most part, most corporations, most companies, things that want to put stuff out, they don't actually want art. They want artists to perform, but if you think of what like art is, anything that really was genuinely creative over the years and even currently, it's usually kind of on the vanguard. And being on the vanguard, it's the sort of thing that a lot of times people don't even really recognize that they like.
Right.
They see it, and a lot of times it's a little surprising. And so artists that are constantly trying to really create new things, they're not the people who are typically very commercially viable.
No, the new
corporate-
things are scary.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
corporations, they want to work with artists. I mean, you see it in the film industry. Go back to the movies in a lot of ways. It's like it's the one for me, one for them argument, where a really famous director will make a full-on studio film that well, there you go, illustration more than original art. I mean, there are illustrators who are artists, though. I mean, there are original illustrations. But if you look at like the director who will make the big tentpole movie, so it makes a lot of money, so that he can then strong arm the studio into funding his art film next, which is the thing he really, really wants to make that he knows is too weird to be commercially viable, but he wants to make it anyway. And so that movie doesn't make a lot of money. Oh, see you, Mr. Kyle. But then the next movie he makes has to be another studio film. And then the one after that is, and so it's corporations a lot of times work with artists because they want the skills, they want the craftsmanship of an artist, but usually they don't want the creativity of the artist. They want them to kind of leave that at the door. And so a lot of times AI art can kind of handle some of that. And so what it does, I think, is it provides a competent, capable artist more tools. So you just hire the one guy to create a bunch of output that's commercially viable instead of hiring a whole room full of artists. Sure. Because the guy putting it out still has to have an artistic sense so that he knows what looks good, what doesn't, what colors actually work, what don't, whatever. You still need a guy who's still going to operate the tools. And so having the one guy is cheaper for sure.
You're talking about an art director more than artists.
Kind of, yeah. Where you just have an art director operating software.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of up and coming artists, I think, are going to have a hard time. Whereas normally there was a lot of sort of entry level jobs they could fill as they, shaped their vision, over the course of their life. Whereas they're going to have a harder time finding that in some ways, but in other ways, I think the people who are truly creative will still rise to the top. I mean, we've had, Deviant art for the last decade has been filled with people who no longer even do commissions because they just have a Patreon, and the people who follow them actually provide them with enough money that they just keep making what they want instead of having to hire themselves out. And so the democratization of creativity has kind of, the groundwork has been there for over a decade. And so
been there for centuries.
Centuries, huh?
Yeah.
like the groundwork.
Leonardo da Vinci was paid by the church, and Michelangelo was paid by the church. They were the patrons.
So you're correct, but he had to paint what the church wanted him to paint. Whereas what I'm talking about,
but I mean, if you work for a studio, you would have to create the work that they want.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm agreeing with that. I'm saying that for the last 10 years, a lot of these artists that have been on, say, DeviantArt or even YouTube doing stuff or whatever, they have patrons that sign on to Patreon. So they're not being commissioned. They literally paint whatever they want and they're getting paid to do that. Whereas that 20 years ago wasn't really the way anything worked. You know what I mean? They were having to just work for another company to pay the bills so that they could then make what they wanted mostly for free, or get lucky and be like Banksy or somebody like that everyone recognizes, and you can essentially make a living making what you want. But most artists had to be commissioned to make a living so that they could also, make the art they wanted. Whereas now, I think AI in a lot of ways, I think gives a lot of tools for people to make the stuff that they want. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's in the same way that a kid can go into Build-A-Bear and build a bear that they want. All the components are there.
Yeah.
You can come out with a completely original bear from all those components, but it's still just all those components, and it was already pre-described.
It's not the thing you built from scratch.
Right. It's not a concept that was, well, I want it to be bear-like with a shirt, or a uniform, you know what I mean? And you start going off on these really weird angles.
What's like, could you go into Build-A-Bear and actually create Octo-Bear if you wanted to? You know what I mean? Like, if you had an idea it's like, all right, but I'm going to make a 12-legged crocodile. Can I do that at Build-A-Bear? And they're like,
yeah, exactly.
Make a bear.
Paul, exactly. to your point there, like, you're right. If you piss off your Patreons or patrons, then they'll leave and yet you lose your income. Theoretically, though, part of building up a Patreon for an artist would be people liking their art style and their personality. So you're more just funding them as a fan of them.
Yeah.
And like the artwork, the subject matter probably is secondary, unless it's, particularly offensive or provocative in some like way that would divide the audience. I think for the most part, if you have that celebrity, it's the way most YouTube channels are anymore. People can go anywhere for a movie review, but now it's like, well, you need to kind of like the person who runs the channel personally, if they're going to have any chance of getting up there. I mean, there's very rare exceptions to it, but I think for the most part, it's personality based. And I think that's just the way artists have gone as well.
Personality and style based. It's like they already like your style. And so that's why coming to see what you're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. So
unlike Kris, they just like him because he's so sexy.
Stop it, you're making me blush.
Art is discovered.
You're in it for the onesies.
Well, so part of that discussion though goes back down to like, what is art, which is a fairly deeply philosophical question, because art isn't just what you see with your eyes either.
Where's that comment? You made it go away too fast.
I'm sorry.
There you go. That is actually, if you've ever read Stephen King's book on writing, he completely agrees with you. He says that stories are always discovered, that really as a writer, you're more of an archaeologist who's like going through and you've discovered something that existed before humanity. And you're slowly like using your tools and your techniques to uncover it. Because the idea is that the concept is a concept since it is a concept, it's always existed. You're just discovering the concept.
It's like the quote from Michelangelo. He didn't sculpt it. He merely took away the excess marble to reveal the object.
I thought you were going to say cowabunga.
No, not the Ninja Turtle, man. We'll talk Ninja Turtles next time.
No, it's what is the saying? What is it? You look at a piece of marble and you just remove the parts of the marble that aren't the sculpture.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a Michelangelo quote. Where he just merely the sculpture was already there. He removed the excess material to reveal the sculpture, and that's a similar kind of thing. Like with what you're talking with the Stephen King quote. It was it was already there. You just have to
You just have to-
remove the excess, right?
Yeah.
But you also had the capacity to see it, which is technically
Yes.
one of the rare traits of a genuinely creative person.
Right. Vision is always key.
Yes. JP Got Rockets pointed out that often handcrafted things are mistaken for cheap mass-produced China junk. For example, my friend Brian has custom jewelry that's designed and cast by the family, but more than once, people barely glanced at it or asked at his wares and vocally assumed that it was just drop-shipped cheap tat. Which, I mean, there's a very homemade. I don't know what his stuff looks like. Having grown up in a very small town and attended dozens and dozens and dozens of
in a
craft
very
shows,
small art town in New Mexico.
very small art town in Mexico. There is and I don't know, this might piss some people off, but there's a lot of creative, artistic people who way overvalue their art. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Art really is just worth what other people are willing to pay for it. And maybe it's not you finding the right audience, but when you're in a town of 1,000 people asking for a lot for some twisted metal or repurposed junk, then no, maybe it's not worth as much as you thought it was. So there's a certain amount of soul searching that an artist probably needs to do as well to find commercial viability.
It's hard once you've given birth to let go, and setting a price that high is more like they don't want to let it go.
Well,
that's why the price is so high.
Weird rules, right? They'll be like, well, it took me X amount of hours to get there, and if I charged a professional rate of $30 or $35 an hour, then I think this piece should be worth X amount. When no one else thinks it that way.
Yeah, it's the labor theory of value versus the subjective theory of value. It's well, I put X amount of work into it, therefore it has this value, versus what is someone else willing to pay for it, and that's the actual value it has.
That's why, like, commission painting is such a hard game, because
for sure
nobody wants to pay for that paint job. Like, I've been watching Flo work on this, and I mean, she's putting a great deal of time into it and care, and she's being very careful, and but nobody wants to pay for that. It's that's a commission piece.
Yes, everything that I work on nowadays is commissioned work. I'm full-time commission.
Lucky you.
You hear that, audience? Full-time commission.
Yeah, no,
Reach
it's
out
really
if
good.
You would like work done.
But it's a tough game for the artist, because so often the work of the artist and the ability is not appreciated. And how do you charge for that, right? Somebody who's 5 years in and paints exceptionally well, and somebody who's 30 years in and paints fairly mediocre, right? How do you differentiate what rates those two should be paying? Because the person with 30 years experience should be a great deal of experience, and but maybe they just lack that technical ability, where versus somebody who's only 5 years in, exceptional painter, smooth blends, goes into painting competitions and comes out with awards, stuff like that. Should that person be making more than the more experienced person, or what I mean? Like, and again,
you can see where my leaning always goes more into the subjective theory of value, because at the end of the day, it's, well, I mean, how much can they sell it for? And I think that's where, kind of closer to what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, for quite a while now, it's usually like a lot of the people that get commissions, they usually get it from people who follow them, or just they like their style, or they like that person. And so it's, as an artist today, you kind of build a following, you know what I mean? More than you just go, haha, look at my work. It is worth this. Pay me. And a lot of people are like, who are you?
Yeah. Who are you? That's where you need celebrity and brand recognition.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I looked at it also. It's like, because when I was first starting out, nobody knew me. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew any of the stuff that I did. And so I started with a lower amount. And as my name has picked up and my work is in more demand, I can raise the prices because people are more interested in getting it. It's just business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. And as it should go, as it should. Because I mean, like, as more and more projects are coming in, your time is being utilized more and more. I mean, you have to pick and choose which projects are really exciting. I got out of painting, commission painting, because this stuff was mind numbing to me.
Yeah.
Painting the same thing over, like the idea of painting even 10 Space Marines, that right now just gives me anxiety. Like,
Oh, dang.
It's just.
Well, you did that for how many years?
I've been doing this since '88,
So, would you say it's
commission-
burnout then?
professionally,
commission
I've been doing this since about 11.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's when I started working for Mini Wargaming. Was 11.
Mhm.
Yeah, something like that.
So
And
a few years of
yeah, it's been
painting
a while. Well, I haven't really been working on much. The last thing I was working on was little Vespid. That was from two months ago, and he's still just base coated.
Hey, it's like how my models look anymore.
Yeah.
I've learned I'm much better, and I think I enjoy assembly more than I enjoy painting. But I will-
Assembly for me is probably my least favorite these days. As I've gotten older, I'm not
Is it
that
just
crazy
a
about the
fiddly
assembly.
bit?
Yeah, well, because like most days now, like I have to look at my models like this as I'm painting, right over my glasses. I have magnifiers, but I have to look over this is more comfortable to look over my lenses.
Oh, okay.
Even though that these lenses are bifocal.
Hey, you do whatever's more comfortable because you're going to be staring at a thing for hours. It better be comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
You look more distinguished when you're looking at above your glasses, anyway. So
yeah, that's when I'm when I'm giving my kids hell. That's usually the look they're getting. It's like
that looks like
Maybe
I
not
can't decide if you need to attend my college or not. Look,
you do have a little bit of crazy professor look right there.
Yeah. So this is what your dad taught you, right? Yeah. This is how you're gonna act. Yeah. All right.
Well, speaking of miniatures, I'm going to really shoehorn this into my segue because I wanted to talk about the new Krieg stuff that.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Holy man.
Yeah. We got way off topic.
Oh yeah. Jeez.
So so over the past weekend, the grand narrative had happened in Atlanta. And so whatever big conclusion and with that, GW announced the brand new Astra Militarum miniatures. It's a whole Krieg box. It's all Krieg themed. The box is going to come with the new codex for Imperial Guard. So yay, I get to pay for my rolls again. But the new Death Korps of Krieg. So first off, my first impression of it looks pretty cool. I think you saw it, right, Kris?
Yep.
So I'm scrolling down and I'm like, oh, we've got cavalry, we've got horses. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on with these feet? I'm not done.
What's wrong with your feet?
What's wrong with your feet? So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What is going on with these gargoyle feet? Like the Krieg themselves look pretty cool. I think it's a little goofy having a gas mask on a horse, but fine. I guess you can make that work. But then it comes back and there's
precedent for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's old artwork with the armor, and I think
I mean IRL. Like, did they actually filter for like in World War I or something? Or you have trench horses? I don't know.
I would imagine there's probably a picture of a World War I horse with a gas mask. I'm willing to bet there is an image.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think that's so
body
crazy.
voice. You look for that because I'm on my right. Soapbox here. Okay.
All right.
Then we come down to another picture where the feet are all like gnarlied out. So it's really like shoving in your face that these horses have bird or gargoyle feet for no reason whatsoever. And then you see the rest of the models and they're all looking pretty cool. And as I say this, and I'm about to complain quite a lot, GW can laugh all the way to the bank because obviously I've already pre-ordered this box set. But but with that said, I grabbed some pictures. I was having an argument on the internet. No, I was having an argument with my game club people. I was like, these feet look horrible. Like, why did they do that? And they're like, well, the original artwork, they had weird feet too. And I'm like, well, what do you mean the original artwork had weird feet? So, little internet search showed me what the original artwork looked like. So allow me to share that with you as soon as I can get my computer to function. There we go. That's not it.
As we go into the Matrix.
Into infinity. Why'd you grab that? That's annoying. There we go. There. That. And I don't know whose artwork, like their signatures at the bottom. I don't know whose artwork that is. And this is an armored horse. But this is the original artwork for the Death Korps of Krieg. Which, look at those feet. Look at them.
Look, they're not bird feet.
They're cloven hooves. And yeah, that you've got a little bit of these like dew claws on both sides. And you could even argue it's almost more like a pig foot or something like that. But at least it is something related to the equine species. And I've got more because I'm not done. There's a different picture as well. Should probably find like a better way to do this than this clunky way I'm doing it. Of artwork here, and you see it's a little weirder there, but there's still like very distinctly two little claws there. So the original artwork does not support whatever this new hideous, horrible design is, where they've got these weird, gnarly, mangled feet. And so here's the argument I have with my game store guys. They're like, well, you know, the original artwork looked like that. And I'm like, no, it didn't. So that's already disproven. And then the second one is like, well, there's mutations. And I'm like, okay, mutations. Well, generally, you know, what causes mutations? Oh, well, they're Krieg, they're on a death world. Okay, fine. You're dealing with what? Radiation. And so I start looking up like mutations that happened during Chernobyl.
Oh, geez.
Because that was a radiation thing, right? And it's like, you know, most radiations lead to the death of the organism, for one. So there's that. And so, yeah, if you look that artwork up, it's not artwork, they're real pictures of what animals, like the deformities and stuff that happened right after Chernobyl. These animals didn't survive. But you know what happened to the animals that did survive? They look normal. Actually, their mutation was all on the inside to just make them more resilient to radiation. I think the green frogs became like black frogs that made them more resilient against radiation. And other than that, like everything's pretty much the same. So understanding this is fantasy, sci-fi fantasy, sure. You say, okay, well, there'd be some mutation, and I can be totally fine with the cloven hooves, with the little dew hooks on them, fine. But these other ones where they just give them these like weird, gnarled, ugly, and somebody really enjoyed the hell out of sculpting that too. So I'm sorry to whoever did that, but I'm cutting those off. That's not happening. My models are going to get redone. I guess I'm just gonna have to learn green stuff or something. But I think they would have looked way better with proper cloven hooves from the original artwork. And I think that's an acceptable amount of mutation. I think whatever they did here, it doesn't make sense from your standpoint if you're arguing mutation. It doesn't even seem like a particularly useful adaptive quality, because that type of foot would be more absorptive of like the terrain around it, whereas hooves tend to be more resilient. And also, rule of cool, no, these look hideous.
Have you looked at the original Forge World sculpts?
The original Forge World Krieg sculpts?
Yeah.
No.
Of the cavalry.
Oh, God, no.
Look up the original sculpts for the Krieg cavalry.
Krieg cavalry.
And obviously look at their feet.
Look at their feet. Look at them. I'm not sure that I'm finding kit bashes or not, though. It's hard to tell.
Just type in Death Korps of Krieg cavalry and then do an image search, and most of the images will be of them, because the new models aren't out yet. So like you're not going to get a lot of new images.
All right, I'm gonna show what I've found so far. So these are some images.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That just look like feed bags.
Makes more sense. Well, it kind of makes more sense because the way a horse would breathe.
That's a gas mask.
That's a gas mask.
My favorite here
is a lot of oxygen for a horse, though.
His expression is the best.
Yeah,
that's what a Krieg horse should look like. That should be his expression. He looks like you just insulted his hair. I
almost dropped an F-bomb.
So then, as a modern one, they realize what the biggest failing is that they didn't do is he needs goggles. Clearly,
right? Yeah.
So that's
because the mustard gas would burn your eyes, right? That's why they had to do it, right? It's because the mustard gas. And
yeah, I mean that would definitely hurt horses.
Yeah, so horses, definitely would have gotten hurt.
Now this is something. So this is something that I actually see as what they were trying to do. In my opinion here. Let me throw mine in there real quick, just because I want to ask.
Okay, yeah. Is this what you're talking about for the
Krieg? Yep, those are the old Krieg models.
It's not very high quality, but I do see.
They are cloven.
See too. They are cloven hooves. Tiny.
What? It's a bit like the artwork. They look a bit more like a camel's foot as opposed to like a horse's foot. Because like a horse foot, right, is like this, right?
It's
like
one toenail.
Yeah, well, it's like two toes.
Well,
and it's like the other
not cloven.
Well, but it's their two toes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's their two toe, or actually it's the two middle ones, and everything else is up further. Whereas these Krieg ones, it's imagined more like the fingers out like that, and they're on the flat part, like a camel, right? It's more like a camel or elephant foot, or a rhino foot.
Well, here's what I think.
To a horse foot or a cow foot, a bovine.
I think this is what they did. I think they're based largely on the griff hounds and the little griff riders from Age of Sigmar. Like,
I mean, they could have just leaned right into it too, though.
Yeah, like I think that's what they were doing with their feet, especially when you look at the griff rider.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at those things.
Yeah,
I think
there you go. Yeah, that looks very much in the same design philosophy.
Yeah,
but why do that when you already have like established stuff? Why purposefully make something look less cool?
Well, what was it? I called it when you pulled it up a thestral. The thestral without wings, pulling some Harry Potter into the 40K universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is what I think they leaned into, is more that.
Well, it seems indulgent for maybe the sculptor, but it does not serve the model at all. I think it's just weird and distracting. Now
the feet are fine. I don't have an issue with feet. In fact, I prefer them to have that freaky deaky look, because initially when the rumors were flying around that Krieg were going to get this release, and I was like, well, I wonder if they're going to get the Rough Riders, because the Krieg riders are so famous, they have to become into plastic. And so I was curious, because are they going to take the Attilan Rough Riders, which are just Mongol warriors on horse, and use that same mount for these troops? Because I thought that was going to be the route they were going to go. But I'm glad to see that they sculpted entirely new mounts for them, because
I do like that.
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
Fine. That's not actually my problem, though, is it?
No, your problem is your horses with feet. I realize that. It is weird.
They're different from the original artwork. They look less cool, and I think the argument where you write for the company, you apologize on their behalf to make excuses for them, I don't think makes sense. Like, when you look at the original artwork, what looks cooler? Like cloven hooves that have like those little spines, which would be a sensible mutation and still be, they would be a unique sculpt. Or
you're also assuming that these are horses.
Well, I mean, they're clearly of the Equus family, right? I mean, whatever
they're shaped like a horse.
I mean, as much as the Death Krieg are human, the horses are going to be horses, right?
Well, sure, maybe.
So in all likelihood, the horses are brought.
I haven't read the background, so I have no idea.
They're brought to the planet, and then they were just like, okay, we're gonna have World War I for the next like 40,000 years. But but I think the big thing they leaned into, I think they just wanted something monstrous, is what I think they wanted. Monstrous and nightmarish. That's what they wanted more than, instead of it, because the original artwork, it looks more like just an odd mutation on like a military pack animal.
It makes them look very drab. It makes the mutation, I don't want to say sad, but it makes them, they look more
what do you call it? Not war torn.
Radish.
War.
They look like rats.
But they should, because this planet that they're on is depressing as hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so everything about them should be down.
Yeah.
And even the horses should be like, ugh.
Where the horse, so the horse feet should, but the horse feet, the way they've done them now, they look more like Katachan horses or something. Looks like that thing could run up a tree, or I don't know, right? Like, they look
tree climbing horses. Now that's a 40K thing right there,
right?
It's true. Well, they do look much healthier than the original Forge World sculpt, and I don't know if that actually leans into a positive direction either.
No, I think
also too, they're also augmented as well.
I think the original sculpt does lean more into what you were saying, in terms of they look drab, they look all that stuff. Whereas the new ones, again, they look monstrous. They look like chaos horses or something like that, rather than kind of drab war horses.
Yeah.
So here you can sort of see the mechanized stuff in the horse. So there's some machinery and whatnot in there. And if that's the case, I mean, I don't know. When you start adding modifications like that, you're like, so why the feet then? Although to Jerry's point, people like soldiers, excuse me, still use horses to this day. I mean, there are just places that horses can get into that vehicles can't.
Including the famous horse.
The famous horse soldiers, the 12 Strong movie. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the other famous one, who was a commanding officer.
Oh, like Sergeant Reckless. That's right. The famous horse from the Korean War, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's reasons to use a horse, and I don't even see 40K being above using that, right? All tools for the war machine. Fine.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
like everybody's conscripted.
And it doesn't even have to be a horse. I mean, we only see horses because that is what we are used to seeing. They could just as easily be lizards, birds, right? They could be riding ostriches. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, they could have just been riding a different animal. This feels like
an alien
half measure of, we want to make it different, but not really.
Well, wait, what is the lore behind it then, right? Did we take horses to that planet and then they just have a divergent evolution, kind of like in North America? Or did we find those creatures on that planet and that's what they just ride around on?
Well, it's probably a mixture of the two. So the humans would have brought horses with them, possibly. When the humans were expanding everywhere before there was an Imperium, and then because that's how all the humans get to all the different worlds in the Warhammer 40,000. It's like 10,000 years from now. When humans are expanding outwards, and then there's this great big recession where everybody's cut off from each other, and then the Emperor comes about and then unifies all these lost worlds, and so that's a lot of time to go between thinking of what we think of as the world today, as opposed to the Warhammer 40,000 world, and horses and stuff like that. Yeah, they would be genetically modified. They would evolve. Who knows what the Mechanicus would do? Who knows even if you have, bother with actual life forms? It's just cheaper to just build cybernetic, horses like the Mechanicum.
Well, you look like what's his name? The your HQ guy, Miranda, who rides a horse.
Oh, Leontis?
Leontis has a half mechanical horse.
Yeah.
Like half, if not all that thing is bionic.
Well, that's because the horse is really old, because it's been with him forever.
But that's because you were mentioning that these horses are somewhat bionic. These
horses are, that's true.
But for Kris, that is what I assume happened, was that we brought the horses and it's just, 10,000 years of divergent evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can imagine it that way, and anything and everything is possible. And in fact, what I prefer, especially within Warhammer 40,000, I prefer when they don't entirely explain it. I prefer when there is still mystery in the background, because that gives you and I an opportunity to discuss, engage, and speculate as to what possible meanings could be from all these different elements within the universe, as opposed 100%. By this year they brought horses. They changed them by this year, and then they started adding this onto them, and you know what I mean. And then they basically lay it out so that this is the lifespan of this particular horse or breed of horse, whatever you want to imagine. Yeah. And it's all explained away, and there's no wiggle room to tell a fresh story. Yeah. That's my problem, and that's my problem since Warhammer 40,000 moved the timeline with Primaris, and they moved the whole timeline forward with the Dark Imperium and Imperium Nihilus and all that.
Yeah,
I think that was a huge mistake.
I agree.
They shouldn't have bothered moving the timeline forward. Warhammer 40,000 is a slice of time, give plus or minus 1,000 years, and all the battles and the games we play, there's all taking place at the same time.
No, I'm 100% with you on that. That's exactly how I feel about it. Completely.
They don't need to explain all this crap away. The more mystery there are, the better, because then it gives you more wiggle room to make up stuff and add your own flavor to an army, even a well-established army, Ultramarines. But then there's might be a little snippet about, a particular moon of Ultramar where there's, a wraith or something like that. And so then you incorporate that imagery into your Ultramarines because there's a moon. What's that moon about? Don't know. There's no stories about it. Just talk about a moon and Space Marines go there to die or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like JP got rockets there. It's always 1 minute to midnight.
Yes, yeah. It's always 1 minute to midnight.
Yeah.
And that's the way Warhammer 40,000 should have been. And moving this timeline forward, they've now put themselves on this track to where they have to maintain it to logically explain why things are occurring. When before that, none of that occurred. In Warhammer 40,000, there was no explanation as to why things were the way they were. You just had to interpret the information with your own eyes and see, holy shit, this is awful. This universe is awful.
Yeah.
You know?
That's part of what always made 40K really difficult to bring to a mainstream audience, because it doesn't simplify well. And even when you try to explain it, you find yourself kind of feeling like you're explaining like really bad forms of government in a positive way.
Yeah.
So
you're like, fascism is good. Yeah.
It's like, compared to what? And you're like,
well,
okay, so there's this warp, and then their eyes have glazed over, and they're like, okay, you must be one of those weirdos.
Yeah.
And it's just a hard conversation to have. So how do you simplify the world?
No, I mean, like Kris has got it. Like, it really is the question, as compared to what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I guess it's better than these hellscape demons coming and just killing everyone. I suppose fascism is better than that. I don't like either outcome, but I'll take one before I'll take the other.
I'll take fascism before skin peeling demons. Sure. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
You got me. You got me.
What is that game you play? The Would I Rather?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you rather? Yeah.
That's what
exactly
40K is.
But you always have to, but that conversation goes longer than like 4 seconds, which is all somebody wants to give you to explain everything, which is, I mean, unless you've got a slogan for it, you kind of are stuck going like, nah, you're not smart enough for me to explain it to you yet.
Yeah, no, it's with Warhammer 40,000, like that's the current problem I have with it, is that they keep explaining all the good details away on all the really interesting things. They keep explaining it away and moving this timeline forward, you know, like going with making Primaris Marines. They should have just made the Marines bigger. That's it. Don't explain it.
I agree.
Just made them bigger. You know, because right now, I've been saying because right now, with Chaos, the Chaos Marines are getting bigger. What's the explanation? Eldar are getting bigger. What's the explanation?
No, and
there's none. It doesn't need one.
I agree with the money for you, right? Where you're talking about like they're 100% GW did it to force everyone to buy the new bigger models. That's literally it. There's no reason.
Sure, I mean, if they wanted to, but if they wanted to force it, they would have got rid of the old ones, like they did with the old world, and bringing in Age of Sigmar. They would have just said, we're not selling the old world stuff anymore. It's all Age of Sigmar. You're either buying it or you're just going to keep playing old world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And 40K had that same problem. And I think that's why they went with that solution, because they saw the blowback from the whole Age of Sigmar thing. And they said, geez, I don't think we want that again. When in fact, it's a slower death of this IP than it is Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar right now is wonderful. It's great.
Yeah.
And the sculpts are wonderful.
They're pretty. They've always
gameplay. As far as I'm concerned, Age of Sigmar has some of the best sculpting going on in Games Workshop. Way better than 40K.
Oh, interesting. I like a lot of the stuff that they put out for sure. Like it's really
cool. Age of Sigmar, beautiful models. Like the last Stormcast Eternal dudes with the big fiery glowing wings. Those things are friggin' awesome. Like those look heroic. As soon as you see it, that's a hero. Right? You see it and they go, oh, that's a hero. You look at the Cruel Boys. Oh, that's a villain. Right?
Yeah.
And you can easily see, you know.
So I think
that's what I really like.
I think I would take that back around and circle back to the horse feet, because what you're describing there is shape language, right? Yes. It's why Chaos Marines always look different than, you know, Imperium Marines. And there just is this very definitive, at a glance, you know, their silhouette because of the shape language. And so when I look at something like the horse feet on, you know, those Krieg horses, the feet that they have, the big like bird feet with claws and all that stuff, they look like something from Chaos, or they look like something from, they do not look like Imperium. And it's why the more subdued, just weird little goat feet or whatever that, you know, the old model had, those look like these kind of ragged soldiers that are drab colors. Those claws are way too flare. They have too much flair. They're too flamboyant almost. They're just, they look chaosy. to me
Yeah.
more than they
do look
like.
chaosy. I think like
That looks super.
I'll play a little bit devil's advocate.
Okay.
But if you're in a trench world and this is your cavalry, you don't want hooves. You want big fat puffy feet.
Then they would have camel feet.
Because of the mud and the soft earth.
Yeah.
You want big fat feet as opposed to hooves because that moves better.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would want something like camel feet. Because camel feet are
is it
for
the
them.
mud world? Is that the argument?
Yeah, the ground is so blasted and chewed up and destroyed that everything's mud and dirt and dust.
Well, he's describing
their world is garbage.
Like they're avoiding trench rot on their toes. You know, it's
exactly.
It's that idea but I would still flatten them out because that doesn't even do well in a trench. Again,
but even giving them bird feet would make more sense too, because bird feet are just scaly, and so they can wade in,
not with that much
muck and
weight
everything
on them. Absolutely not. Bird feet only work because there's like a half a pound creature sitting on it.
Well, hang on. If you look at these feet, you described them earlier as pig feet, and pigs do run around in the mud.
Yeah.
So the pig feet work better than the claws. The claws, I mean, a tiger or I just try to think of other creatures that have claws. Like, again, the shape language is wrong for.
Ever see a lynx? Have you ever seen a lynx?
Yeah.
They've got gigantic feet for their size. They're a bit bigger than a house cat, but their feet are about that big.
Well, same with snow leopards. They have very big feet.
Yeah, snow leopards are
because
the same reason.
that's for walking on snow. Right?
But if you look at claws, if they were duck feet, I would give it to you. Where they're spread out. Because
duck feet would be swimming.
But they're webbed, right?
That's swimming though.
Right? Whereas like what you're describing, the claws, that still will sink into the mud, whereas something that flattens out more, or something more like pig feet that are designed to kind of push into it would look better, I think. I'm still I think I agree with Miranda on the look. Like these feet look cool on this picture. They
look more dour. They look more creepy.
Yeah, dour. There you go.
Creaky.
Creaky. Yeah. Can't that be a verb?
Sure.
Or adjective or.
And again, who says these are horses?
Well, the model says they're horses. Frankly,
it's shaped like a horse. But
if you want them to be different, then you would have had to not make a half measure and make an actual new creature, because the shape language of this obviously says it's an effed up horse.
Well, it's war horse. It's from the movie War Horse.
Yeah, it's a war horse. Yeah.
So horse. Duck
I mean, it's horse shaped, but technically, is it a horse? I don't know.
Well, you can technically all you like, but even when you think about mutations, if you were to try and like logically say, okay, well, what creatures?
But what if it's not mutated? What if it's a native creature of their world?
Well, I guess, but then you start. I feel like when you get to that level of, it sounds too much like I don't care. They can write whatever they want.
Yeah.
Well, that's the part of explaining it all away.
Yeah, and I don't love that.
So there's two different
you don't need to.
That. There's two different angles to that, though, I would think, which is for something to be a fantastic creature, you have to have a logic to it. And that's kind of where I lean into. There's the rule of cool, which describes the shape language of something.
Sure.
Right? That's, would it really be all that effective for a Chaos Marine to have so many spikes he couldn't walk through a bulkhead? It's like, well, no, but he looks cool, so he looks chaosy, whatever, forget that.
Yeah.
Somehow he manages to walk through this chaos spaceship he's on, even though there's no way he'd make it through a doorway. Okay, whatever. So there's the rule of cool, but even that has a logic to it, because even then you're like, oh, what? No, like Nurgle looks this way and Khorne looks this way, right? Tzeentch looks this way. Like, you don't overlap those things because you still have to maintain an internal logic to it.
Yeah. And I agree with Jeff here that it does look more like a chimera, like just an animal that was melded cruelly to another one, more than any sort of natural.
Where's the Alex Jones? They're making chimeras.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I don't know. That's my tirade. I'm getting the box set because I do want them, but I'm going to have to fix those feet because they are absolute deal breakers for me. And
Now, what I'm hoping, and I'm hoping this is a trend, because like with the Rough Riders of Attila and the Restivian Guard, we got new models, new sculpts to a classic model. Death Korps of Krieg, new sculpt, classic model, fresh take on those horses and everything like that. What I hope is in future releases with like Talaran or Mordian Iron Guard or anything like that, that with new mounts for them, we get a different beast or something else, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that. It doesn't have to be a horse, which is what this is.
Well, hang on. Savage
I want
Brewski
chocoboos.
brings up a good theory here. So there are no wolves on Fenris. As we all know, the wolves are actually like the space wolves who have actually gone fully feral, right? So are we saying that that's what the horses are? Are they just Kriegsmen who have just seen too much battle and they've slowly turned into horse-like creatures? Is that?
Well, if that were the case, then the Inquisition would be on them, and the world probably would have been destroyed 10,000 years ago.
No, they're just abhuman.
Already had a history of overlooking.
No, but there's no mutants.
No, but that's what I'm saying. They're not mute. They're abhuman at that point.
Yeah, abhumans are mutants.
Yeah,
Ratlings are abhumans. Ogrins are, and Votan are technically abhumans.
And apparently, Krieg men who've turned into horses are abhumans.
Yeah, they like that. That's just a recipe for getting exterminatus.
I don't know. Krieg donates like almost double or something what their normal tithe is. I think that's like the whole argument for if they're clones, and the Inquisition and the Imperium kind of is pointedly incurious about it because they just get so many soldiers from there.
Well, so much of 40K lore is about the various Imperium governments just looking the other way.
No.
Aye. Yeah, I just seen that comment.
So wait, is that a Kriegapede? Does that make it a Kriegapede?
Kriegapede.
I don't like where this conversation's going anymore. I'd be okay with exterminatus at that point.
Can somebody exterminatus us?
Oh man. So
good God.
This chat went wild. Anyway, on that note, we were kind of over time. Kris, this was super fun. We're gonna have to do this again. Oh man, and find another thing to argue about since you're all devil's advocate. Their games.
I'm always devil's advocate.
They do what they want.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, a lot of times people just take on face value somebody's point, and it's like we don't challenge each other enough. So I like to challenge people.
I love it.
Oh, I agree 100%. I'm usually that guy.
That's why you're still invited back.
So who's on next? Who do you got next week?
I don't actually know yet. I haven't planned that far.
Oh no? Okay.
Have we not?
Well, you might. Okay. I'm gonna throw this out there. I think you got to get Uncle Adam.
Yeah.
Kick it old school.
Yeah.
Huh?
Go back.
We got to get him on again.
Yeah.
Well, we need to get both you guys on at the same time and just do a little movie rundown. Like
I know
like
both
old
of them will
times.
probably seen more movies this year in the theaters than we did. So.
I probably have. Yeah, I probably have. I've been to the theater every other weekend.
Dang. All right. But
Yeah.
not horror movies. Okay.
But no, not the last. What the hell was the last horror movie I watched?
The last one we saw was Heretic with
Oh, Heretic was good.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
No, not Richard Gere.
Not Richard Gere.
No, it's
I can't stand that guy, Richard Gere.
you know that guy
I
from
almost dropped an F-bomb again.
that guy from Lair of the White Worm.
Oh my god.
I feel like Kris might know that one.
Wow.
Oh my god, he's another one of the British heartthrobs. What the heck was his name?
Tom Hardy.
It's driving me nuts.
Colin Farrell.
No, the older generation. Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, my goodness.
Hugh Grant. Oh.
Yeah,
Why'd that name fall out of
the
my
chat.
I was going to say Ian
Thank
McKellen.
you, Paul.
Sean Connery.
Well,
So
I mean,
yeah,
he
Hugh
was
Grant's in
fine.
it, and he's fantastic.
I'm still trying to think of what the hell damn last horror film I saw. I can't think of it.
Did you see it in theaters or did you see it at home?
Probably at home, because I don't usually go to the theater for horror. The last
that's
like
fair.
close to horror would be Alien Romulus. I went to the show for that.
Yeah. Which, if you're going to watch it at all, definitely go see it in the
Definitely
theater.
fair, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's see.
Anyway.
I was say
I'm looking forward to that new
we
one
don't have to
that's
ask
coming
Flo
out.
what last one she saw was, because I watch them all the time.
Okay, what would you
Horror
watch
is
last,
my
Flo?
genre. The last
Would you watch
horror film I watched, I just
Yeah.
for hell at home, I watched The Thing.
thing? The original, or the John Carpenter? Oh, okay.
John Carpenter.
Yeah, the John
sure.
Carpenter.
Come on.
Yeah.
Not the original. Now, from what I understand, the John Carpenter and the original from like the 50s, they are not the same film.
No.
And you actually don't consider them a remake.
Okay.
Apparently. I've never watched the original.
I mean, if
Only
you want
ever
to
watched
get very technical, the Ghostbusters are the same way. Technically, it's a remake.
Ghostbusters, yeah?
Yeah, but it's not at all like the original.
All right. Well,
You mean with the Ghostbusters? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the original, I think is like black and white. No, it's they had a similar name, and I guess technically they look for ghosts, but
it
yeah,
was a
they're.
totally different story. Yeah.
I think
just
there's even
happened to have the same
a
name.
talking monkey involved or something like that at the very first one.
My last theater was Deadpool and Wolverine, and before that was Alien Romulus.
Okay.
Deadpool.
Good times.
Yeah.
We're gonna end it here. We'll play the outro here for a few minutes, so I'll be responding to folks in the chat for anything else you want to share. I do appreciate that people actually agreed with me for the most part. 64% in the poll saying that
What
the
poll?
old
I didn't
big
see no
models
poll.
were better. There was a poll. I had a poll out. 64% of people agreed that the old sculpts were better.
Bull.
Anyway. On that note, we'll see you guys all in 2 weeks. And Kris, thanks again for having us, for being on. And yeah, I actually have a banner for you somewhere. There we go. Yeah, check out Kris's channel here. Yeah. All right, we will chat with you later then.
Bye-bye.
Barry, cover me. All right, guys, this is it. Copy that. No more sandwiches, Barry. What's wrong with this place? I'm in the west corridor. I'm right outside the generator room. I'm out of bullets. Oh, Barry. Okay.